welcome back to the Backseat Startup Podcast, where we give unsolicited advice to strangers on the internet. I'm Luke, I'm the founder of Startup Founder Daily, and today I'm joined by Sam Loui. Sam is the Global Startup Pipeline Coordinator at Techstars, where she sources companies, manages leads, and supports founders in finding their accelerator fit. Previously, she worked on building a space as a service company at a startup studio. She has also spent time at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a few VC firms, and a Techstars startup in the AI media space. Sam, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to give unsolicited advice.
Perfect. All right. So you know the deal. We're going to launch Reddit, particularly the r/startup subreddit. We'll find a question posed by a founder and we'll break it down.
Great.
You all set?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So we can start wherever you want. We can scroll for a bit. I must confess, this is supposed to be totally unscripted and spontaneous, but I read the headline of this earlier. And since you were on the investing side, I thought this might be a fun one.
That looks cool. Down. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I will just read this quickly. The title is Common Practice to be Interrupted by Investors. I'm currently raising funding for my startup. I'm a first-time founder, but our product is growing incredibly quickly. We've onboarded thousands of users in the past month, and our sales are growing steadily. Low customer acquisition cost, low churn, high customer lifetime value. In meetings with investors, however, I am frequently interrupted by them. For example, the last investor I spoke to, we were supposed to have a 30-minute talk. He showed up 15 minutes late. I understand we need to keep things moving, but to disrespect my time and then to interrupt me when I'm speaking just seems rude to me. I don't really want to take money from or have a business relationship with someone like that, if I'm being honest. Next time I'm interrupted, I think I'm going to say something short like, please do not interrupt me. Has anyone else faced this? What do you recommend founders do in this situation? So what do you think about that?
It makes me so mad to know that investors pull this kind of stuff, because when you're meeting in a fundraising meeting, there's already this power play. Founders are already nervous. And then for investors to do it, I think that one thing, there is a big gender thing at play. I think that a lot of investors of what I think of as like the older generation see it as they're being that hard-hitting investor. They're asking the tough questions. They're being efficient with the time, but they're usually doing this more when it's a woman founder, because they feel like they can interrupt. They feel like they can make sure that they're getting towards the things that they want, and they're going to be bolder with that with women. And I hate that. So the first thing that I always say is like, do you really want to be giving this person your time of day? An investor and a founder relationship is two-way street. Like, yes, you're asking them for money, but you're also their chance to make quite a lot of money and to make their LPs very happy. So having that sense of self-worth can really help you going into these meetings and remembering that it's a fit. You're not begging them for money. You're looking for the person who's going to build your startup with you for 7-10 years, for a lifetime. So if as a woman, you're experiencing this from an investor, the first thing to remember is you don't want this person's money anyway. And hopefully there's a lot of really stellar women and founders in general who will not put up with this kind of behavior from investors, and that will continue to change the VC ecosystem. But it's part of the fundraising journey, and I don't want it to be accepted as such. But yeah, it definitely happens. It's not this person imagining it. It's not this person somehow attracting all the worst people. So I think going into it, remembering that you're looking for a fit, and if someone's rude and you're not vibing with that investor, just remember that you probably should be looking for other investors and finding someone who will actually respect you.
That's so well said. The point about being a two-way transaction, it's not, I know a lot of founders kind of have this impression that they're coming hat in hand to beg for money. And that's not the dynamics of the relationship. It shouldn't be to that extent. And I do want to add for context for the listeners, this user on Reddit does have a number of edits, and she does state that I am a woman, so this might also play a part. Ex-corporate, interrupting people during meetings was a big faux pas in company culture. So adding a bit of context there. But I think that's absolutely correct way to approach that, and just have the mindset when you're talking to investors. I did have a question about So showing up 15 minutes late, understanding to keep things moving and so forth. So when you are approaching these types of meetings, even if they're preliminary meetings, not necessarily pitch meetings, how do you think founders and investors should kind of deal with last minute things? How do you apologize for being late? What's the etiquette around rescheduling? Any of your thoughts around that?
Yeah. I think everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes your computer just won't turn on. Sometimes my Zoom just decides to do an update right when I'm trying to open Zoom, and I end up 5 minutes late, and it can be very stressful for me. But if it feels like this person, and from reading this post, it feels like this person just was not respecting this meeting, being prepared to open their Zoom on time. I think that if it's an intro and you're willing to just get on the phone, do it, but kind of say, there's a lot more that I wish we could talk about. Let's schedule a second meeting. Because it feels like they're not giving the time that they committed to giving you. Usually if it's like 15 minutes late, I would say it sounds like you just you were not able to, let's reschedule. It's totally fine. I approach things very assuming the best intent, and that's kind of how I've had to go about life. So if it were a person coming 15 minutes late, if they show up, I would just say, let's reschedule. I totally understand that something's happened. But yeah, and maybe give this person a chance if you want. Otherwise, if you don't want to give them a chance, write out those 15 minutes, put through it, and then say, I don't think we should go forward with this.
Yeah, absolutely. The line where she's questioning if she wants to go into business with this person. I read a statistic a while ago that most investor-investee relationships last longer than the average marriage, which is
Yes.
alarming in and of itself. But this is like a long-term relationship. These people will be on your cap table, involved in your company, growing your company. So beyond this point, how do you think about the investor relationship post-investment? How do you engage with your investors? What's the proper amount of communication and collaboration after that point?
Yeah, I find it very funny because I make that joke all the time that our relationships are going to be longer than a marriage. So I actually haven't seen the source of that data, but I say it a lot, so I hope it's accurate.
It's thrown around enough.
So I think that one piece of due diligence that not a lot of people necessarily talk about is understanding how involved your investor is going to be, because a lot of times you're really just focused on that due diligence of, are they investing in my kind of companies? Do they have portfolio conflict? But think about what do you want of your board of advisors? What do you want on your cap table? If you have 6 investors who are texting you at 2 a.m., that might just be too much. So I recommend looking for the balance of investors who are going to be in the weeds with you. Ask them questions. Ask them about the value they've added to past portfolio companies. Ask if you could meet some of the founders that they work with, and get a sense, are they the kind of person that you call every single week, or are they the kind of person that is going to just take a step back? Maybe if you want one big question a month, then they'll be absolutely killer at getting you that answer or that resource. And I think for me, if I were a founder, getting a good balance is really good, because I don't need 3 people who I can text at 2 a.m., but I do need a variety of someone who's really high up and connected, who probably is very busy. And that's great, because they're probably making better network that I can tap into. And that's fine if that means I can't text them at 2 a.m. But yeah, get a sense by talking to founders that they've invested in, get a sense by talking about the different kinds of value that they like to add. And ideally, if you have control over your cap table, get a variety so that you know what every investor is bringing to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing you said, I think, really deserves echoing is that it's okay to ask an investor what they're bringing to the table besides capital. It's okay to ask what their level of involvement has been with the other companies, what value they have added. And I think a lot of founders don't realize that it's okay to ask that. It's okay to explore what the relationship looks like beyond dollars and cents.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes founders are scared to ask investors because they're just so focused. They're like, I'm coming to you begging for money. Right. But it shows that you're doing your due diligence. It shows that you're putting thought into your cap table. If I were talking to a founder and they had no questions about my fund or my firm or my actions, that'd be a little bit weird. So don't be afraid. They're going to be asking you the tough questions. They're going to be asking you things about your founder relationships and they're going to be asking you things about your customers, like feedback. So you can ask them about their right back the same hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we have explored this question. I really hoping for the best for this poster. This is really frustrating, not a situation that any founder should find themselves. And it's important who you go into business with. But Sam, thank you so much for helping me break down this question. Where can listeners connect with you?
You can find me on Twitter and TikTok. I am active on both. My Twitter is at Sam Loui, and my TikTok is at Startups with Sam. I am talking for founders to give you advice and resources and cool stories. So follow me there for some content similar to this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show, Sam. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching this episode of Backseat Startup. Please like and subscribe for more. This show is brought to you by Startup Founder Daily. We feature founders across our platforms for free. If you'd like to apply, head to the application form in the show notes.